So picking up from part 2, I wanted to bring your attention to this video right here that we did a little while ago, say about 3 years ago, right? 3 years back. This joint right here, right? The true Ethiopians or Ethiopians of the firmament. All right, so in this discussion, we mentioned, or we went over the fact that melanin is a luminous energy. That melanin was a luminous energy. All right, and I wanted to go ahead and dig on that a little bit more to give more insight and credence as to what that means, exactly. Like, when you understand you were designed, created, purposed with this being, with this body, particularly those of melanation, those being rich in melanin, you begin to understand how the genetics work in harmony with the cosmos, all right, with the earth itself, but things that are outside of the earth, so to speak, all right? And these bodies all are congruent for your benefit. So understanding how you were positioned and designed to partake in all of these things just by, being corporeal in your corporeal form is nothing short of a miracle. And we go ahead and discuss and break down these topics, but to, start off part 3, moving forward, because this drop was just, it's jam-packed. All right. So there was a lot of information we went over just from a couple of sentences. All right. That took up a good chunk of time for part 2. So as we dig on luminous energy and photometry, luminous energy is the perceived energy of light. This is sometimes called the quantity of light. Luminous energy is not the same as radiant energy, the corresponding objective physical quantity. This is because the human eye can only see light in the visible spectrum and has different sensitivities to light of different wavelengths within the spectrum. When adapted for bright conditions, photopic vision, the eye is most sensitive to light at a wavelength of 555 nm. All right. So, luminous energy is the perceived energy of light itself. And we went over in this video how basically melanin is a luminous energy. All right. So with that being said, I wanted to get a breakdown on what that entails properly. All right. And we're going to go ahead and just, see what the young Nat was talking about back then. We was really popping off, man. So let's see what we can get, and we're going to go ahead and build with the real ones. And here we have this article, right? The unsuspected capacity of melanin to transform light energy into chemical energy. All right. I'm not sure what the rest of this is. Right? I'm not trying to have it take away from what I just read. And that is the unsuspected capacity of melanin to transform light energy into chemical energy. Alright, and that's what we're going to be digging on in this article, in this breakdown. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything for me to grab, but nah, I'm going to go down to where I meant to bring you guys to. Trying to see what's a good point. Let's just take it from the top. All right. I'm gonna bring it from right here. Don't ask me why. I'm gonna just dive in. What we call a belly flop, and let's see. It says Trachemes scripta has been the subject of extensive research into adaptations that permit neuronal survival without oxygen. But none of the published studies seems to take into account the ever-presence of melanin that the turtle has mainly on the skin and in the shell, at least macroscopically. Therefore, their conclusions are confuses, intricate, and ultimately do not resolve the question. Thus, at no time do turtle neurons experience an energy deficit that would otherwise constitute a trigger for catastrophic cell death. But this can be explained as consistent if we add to the equation of the unsuspected intrinsic property of melanin transform light energy into chemical energy by means of dissociation of the molecule of water, such as chlorophyll in plants. Now, I know that was a lot, right? But when we pay attention to this part right here, where they say, if we add to the equation the unsuspected intrinsic property of melanin transform light energy into chemical energy by means of dissociation of the molecule of water, such as chlorophyll in plants. Now, why am I highlighting that? Because when we were reading on the sun is water, right? It says, like all stars, the sun contains every known element, including oxygen and hydrogen. In some places, the sun's oxygen and hydrogen even combine to form H2O or water. So hot, in fact, that nearly all of its atoms, including oxygen and hydrogen, float around without attaching to each other to form molecules. And that's exactly what this article said that the melanin does. It says, if we add to the equation the unsuspected intrinsic property of melanin transform light energy into chemical energy by means of dissociation of the molecule of water. All right, that means that it separates the water from the melanin in order to abstract the energy. That's the same process that the sun does. Okay, so now we're talking light bodies. Now I'm starting to grasp this angle of light, right? The difference between the Gregories or the Gregories. So, as we digging on this, we're able to see what's really going on. We have those who can dig on the sun's hydrogen, but in the body, right? The same way the sun has access to this water, right? By way of hydrogen, the body has access to this water. But it's the dissociation of the water that the light energy is transformed into chemical energy. So let's break it down, right? We have light energy transformation into chemical energy. Now it says the first step in plants can be represented as follows, and that's liquid to gas, okay? So here we see how H2O breaks down into 2H2, which is gas, and then into O2, okay? It says traditionally gives much value to molecular oxygen is generated as a result of the dissociation of the water molecule, but in our opinion, the value product is molecular hydrogen, since it is the carrier of energy par excellence in the entire universe, besides a powerful antioxidant effect that is very useful in biochemical terms. And on the other hand, oxygen is toxic to any concentration. Proof of this is that plants expel it into the atmosphere. Now, did you just hear what they said? Plants find oxygen to be toxic, and so they repel it. They expel it back into the atmosphere. Okay? And the fact that hydrogen is within the oxygen is now turned back into water because it's a separation. The plant took the energy from the molecule and expelled the water. So you wake up and you see your grass is wet. This is how the earth breathes, right? When you breathe after a physical activity, you sweat. Do you not produce water in the same way? You expel the water, right? The body works in the same way. All right. It says today chlorophyll was considered the only one biological molecule capable of carrying out such a transformation, but now that melanin makes its appearance as a energetic molecule of first order, the old paradigm of chlorophyll is broken into 1,000 pieces. All right, so melanin is just completely upgrading the scientists' process or their understanding of the process, the way light interacts with this source of conductivity. Okay, so they thought they had to drop by comparing it to chlorophyll. Now we're seeing that as they get extensive studies on melanin, right, which you're rich in melanin. Alright, so we're starting to understand that their paradigm of the way they saw chlorophyll is broken into 1,000 pieces. It says melanin, the mammal's chlorophyll. Melanin, luminous energy. Luminous energy. Melanin is what? Luminous energy. What is the sun? Is the sun not a luminous energy? Do we need to go back and look at it again? The sun, right, which contains what? 70% hydrogen, right? 70% hydrogen. If the etymology of hydrogen is the producing of water, that means the sun is producing water in a luminous light form, right? As a luminous light form. So they're saying melanin is a luminous energy. It becomes chemical energy. All right, so as we're building on it, right, we're talking about melanin being a luminous energy, man. And shout out to this drop right here. It was a wonderful build when we was doing so. Black Body Ether, the true Ethiopians of the firmament, part 2. All right. So I would suggest, everyone go ahead and dig on that. But continuing on, we're going to go ahead and get this drop. Peace, peace. All right, here we got this article from Publish Med. And it's saying that melanin directly converts light for vertebrate metabolic metabolic use. Heuristic thoughts on birds, Icarus, and dark human skin. All right. And yeah, we'll see what we get. It says pigments serve many visually obvious animal functions, as in hair, skin, eyes, feathers, and scales. One is melanin, unusual in absorption across the UV visual spectrum, which is controversial. Any polymer or macro structure of melanin monomers is melanin. Its roles derive from a complex structural and physical chemical properties: semiconductor, stable radical conductor, free radical scavenger, charge transfer. Some crazy breakdowns they threw in here, right? Clinicians and researchers are well acquainted with melanin in skin and ocular pathologies, and now increasingly are with internal melanized pathology associated sites not obviously subject to light radiation, as in the brain or cochlea. All right. And keep this in mind, like we were saying in part 2, the one thing you can learn about to expand your topic of conversation, or especially for those who are writers or those who wish to express themselves artistically in any form, is to really understand the functioning of melanin. Once you do, you have a plethora of subjects to speak about that can become classics, because this understanding contains the knowledge of the universe, the cosmos. All right. It says at both types of sites, some findings puzzle. Positive and negative neuromelanin effects in Parkinson's, unexpected melanocyte action in the cochlea, indefinite melanin reduces DNA damage, but can promote melanoma in melanotic cells. Mitochondria number was 83% less, respiration down 30%, but development similar to normal in melodic cells. A little known avian anatomical conundrum may help resolve melanin paradoxes. One of the many unique adaptations to flight, the pectin, strange intraocular organ with unresolved functions, is much enlarged and heavily melanized in birds fighting gravity. So birds that fight gravity, their feathers or their wings, their structure are heavily melanized, which is a trip, right? Because it's letting you know that melanin helps what? Fight gravity. To be anti-gravity is to be what? Heavily melanated. You know what I'm saying? Alright, it says the pectin may help cope with energy and nutrient needs under extreme conditions by marginal but critical melanin initiated conversions of light to metabolic energy. It says where are we at? Melanin initiated conversion of light to metabolic energy coupled to local metabolite recycling. So we're talking about metabolism, right? The increasing rate of metabolism being expressed or converted from the way melanin is initiated, which is pretty crazy. It says similarly in Central Africa, reduction in body hair and melanin increase may also have led to the photomelanometabolism, the photomelanometabolism, which, though small scale unit body area in total, may have enabled a sharply increased development of energy hungry cortex and enhanced human survival generally. So they're saying that humans were able to fluctuate their metabolism, which in a sense helped them deal with hunger or the usage of energy. They're maintaining more energy so they don't have to expend other energy, which can cause hunger. All right, so this is interesting because they're talking about a reduction in body hair. All right. I mean, this is pretty intense as we gonna continue on to, develop within this drop that we got. But yeah, that's pretty intense, man. Considering how they're saying that melanin is responsible for the increase of this melanometabolism, which increases the development of energy, all right, and combating the hunger that basically enhanced the human survival generally through, oh no. Oh no, man, we might have to take a quick break on this because, the next detonators is popping off while we in the drop, and the mic is pretty good. It's going to pick up, the bass of the such. We'll see what's cracking. Shalaki on that, tribe. Peace. All right, so it seems that my next door folk has slightly calmed down some, so we're gonna go ahead and continue on with the build. We was digging on melanin right now and how it is basically a conversion from metabolism. All right. Now we were digging on the different realities of the planes of existence, dealing with the shiny ones and the sort. So we're gonna go ahead and continue back onto that before continuing on with the rest of the drop that we got here. What's this right here? All right. So let's dig some more. Let's see what we pick up. All right. We have the hierarchy of the lower spiritual regions. All right. The hierarchy of the lower spiritual regions. And Earth is considered to be one of those lower spiritual regions. The universe itself is considered to be of that lower spiritual region. And there are higher, echelons above this that we're in now. So we're going to try to tap into that. If you can, you can. If you can't, just surf the wave and, tag along for the read. All right. It says the material universe and the two immediately higher regions, the astral and the causal, are ruled and administered by the negative power. Kal Niranjan. All right. Or Kal Niranjan. So it says this negative power is called Kal Niranjan under a mandate from the supreme being. So this negative power, it says the material universe in two immediately higher regions, the astral and the causal, right, are ruled and administered by the negative power. So that negative power's name is Kal Niranjan, and he is under a mandate from the supreme being to have ruling or dominion over the material universe. It says, according to the saints of perfect living masters, this mandate, when it was first established, allowed Kal 3 boons. Okay, number one is that the saints should not persuade people of this world to follow their teachings by use of miraculous or supernatural powers. Now, what is that, or who does that sound like, right? the saints should not persuade people of this world to follow their teachings by the use of miraculous or supernatural powers. That number 2, that nobody in this world should know anything about his previous lives. If a person knew what sins had been committed in a previous life for which he was being punished in this life, then that person naturally would not repeat them again. And it is Cal's strategy to cause such sins to be committed over and over again so as to build up karmas and confine souls to this material world. Now, this is pretty heavy, okay, right here. We were digging earlier with the karmas, right? I believe it was with this article. Yeah, right here. Judged by the karmas. Here, all beings are judged by the karmas. And, you know, we always say karma comes back around, right? So here we even know within ourselves what's being discussed at this very moment. Okay. So they're saying that this entity, this cow entity, is the one responsible to making sure that as souls, these same things are happening to keep us in this material world. Now, if you remember where we were digging on the drop before part 2, we were asking, who is this Satan? Who is the devil? Right? We were asking for clarification because as often as it is discussed, no one's ever able to really give you detail. Well, surfing the wave, we were able to identify such entity, such being, and we realized that it pieces up with mainstream religion, which is why they don't discuss in actuality who this devil is, because we all been tricked into worshiping it in one form or another. This is the reality of the crash course right here on planet Kai or planet Ki or planet Earth, right? This is one of the things that we are told to expect, right? Now it says that nobody in this world should know anything about his previous lives. If a person knew what sins had been committed in a previous life for which he was being punished in this life, then that person naturally would not repeat them again. And it is Cal's strategy to cause such sins to be committed over and over again so as to build up karmas and confine souls to this material world. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is the word confine, because we're going to run into this in just a bit as we continue. All right, confine. That wherever, number 3, that wherever a soul might be placed, it should feel contented in that condition and not be compelled to seek for spiritual advancement. Krishna advanced the example of pigs that lived in filth but were perfectly contented with their lot. While this cow, he cannot prevent a determined soul from contacting a perfect living master and obtaining spiritual liberation, the negative power nevertheless serves the important function of spiritual filtration. It is his task allotted to him by the Supreme Lord to ensure that no soul gets past a given point in the spiritual ascent without first having attained the proper degree of purification. To this end, he is permitted to trick and mislead the unfortunate soul in order to keep it trapped in the endless cycles of transmigration. Okay, and this is how we start digging on the recycling center. All right, and just being a soul that constantly comes back, right? constantly repeating the cycles of being here. We'll dig into that a little more too. And this comes with other drops that we've basically built on when it comes to the Yaldabaoth scenario. And, this Yaldabaoth will actually be keeping those who don't keep the code in check. Because it's this Yaldabaoth that has been given dominion. All right. Just like the script says, but, they water it down. And furthermore, what is this significance of the soul, as we'll dig into? Right? Because we dug on the Neanderthal. I think it's, let me see, what part was that we did? What drop is that? Part 7, right? In part 7 of the Neanderthal series, we were speaking on what the soul was, right? Or that could be the Etherians part 3. My bad. I think that might be the Etherians part 3, where we're talking about the soul. Okay, so it says, although Kal is the creator of the material universe, under the direction of the Supreme Being, he is not the creator of the soul. He can neither create nor destroy a soul. It is only the body that belongs to him. He assigns a body according to individual karmas and takes it back after the allotted span is over. In the long term, he has no control over the soul, because souls are the children of the Sat Purush, or the Supreme Being, and are immortal. In this discussion of the ruling negative power, it is instructive to read further comments of Dr. Julian Johnson, issued with the full authority of the great master Hazur Maharaj Sawan Singh Maharaj. It says, in the meantime, while we sojourn in this dark region of matter, we have to deal with the negative power. With him, we must contend in our struggles for spiritual freedom. It is his duty to try and hold us here, while it is our duty to try to escape. The resulting struggle purges us and makes us strong and fits us for the homeward journey. This everlasting fight, this struggle in a welter of pain and blood and heart cries, is designed by the Supreme Father to purge us and make us clean, ready for our homeward ascent. Let us never be discouraged. All of this is designed by the Father for our benefit. It is much as if one enters a gymnasium to take exercise. If we meet these difficulties in the right spirit, we shall greatly profit by them. The idea of pain and struggle is to purge us and inspire in us a longing to rise above the regions of pain and shadow. At the present time, we are sojourners in the country of the negative power, and our first duty is to find our way back to our home. While here, we are subject to the laws of this country. It is to these laws of the negative power we refer when we speak of the laws of nature. For he is the creator and the Lord of the physical universe. He is the Lord of the Bible, the Jehovah Yahweh of the Jews and Christians, the Allah of the Mohammedans. He is the Brahm of the Vendistas, the God of practically all religions. None but the saints and their students know of any other gods. Yet this negative power, so exalted and universally worshipped as the Supreme Lord God, is in fact only a subordinate power in the grand hierarchy of the universe. And this is why we dodge the hijack so tough. We build on Hawa. We build in a frequency, right? In a certain specific channel that evades all of these things, even if it is a switcheroo, right? Hawa, right? Even if it is a switch. Now, here's something to reflect on. If we're talking about melanin being a luminous energy, and this negative power is the one behind the laws of nature, well, this negative power still had a love for you as a rich and melanin person, right? You're melanin rich. You being highly carbonated shows a gratification for you. Because if this is a negative power to those who wrote this, well, you can understand why they feel negative about you. And maybe they're in the understanding that their souls get past no point other than a recycling system. Because this realm was not created for them. Therefore, they have no harmony, no synergy with the divine creator to get them back to where they need to be. Right? This is why we dig on melanin. But it depends on how you surf the wave, right? It depends on how you see this demiurge, this Yaldabaoth. It says, subordinate to the great negative power, there are three others whose names must be mentioned here. They are the famous Hindu Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. These are called sons of Kal. Alright, so Kal often enters the creation in the form of an avatar or incarnation. See, now we're back to this incarnation. Alright. As Swamiji explained, his purpose is to mislead souls. He appears as a prophet or a holy person and gives out teachings that lead to limited inner progress. No doubt these persons who follow these lofty teachings attain inner ascent, but Kal cannot take them higher than his own region, which is Trikuti, and very few who follow his incarnations get even that far. And that goes into the religions around the world, right? They always feel so basic, so watered down, so blah and bland. So we also know that the channel that we're on, the energy that we're flowing from, the source that is our all, our Hawa, is on a higher frequency. And it is clear that the lesser entities from time to time take human form for express purpose of doing the bidding of Kal in this world. We shall return to this subject in Volume 2, Chapter 25, with authoritative quotes from Professor Lek Raj Puri. In the 2 pages at the end of this second prologue, an attempt has been made to outline a tentative hierarchy of the limited information supplied by the two ancient Coptic documents, the Askul and the Bruce codices. So remember how I told you to pay attention to the Coptic when we were digging on Cairo, right? When we were digging on Cairo for Egypt. Told you keep in mind the Coptic names, because now we're back to that, right? Coptic. Oh, we were back over here, my bad. So now we're talking about the Coptic, right? Ancient Coptic documents, which is Egyptian related. It says the fact that this is impossible for any earthbound creature to understand the ramifications of spiritual regions is, in this case, not an impediment to understanding this book. It is the intention of the authors to define but to draw attention to the fact that certain groups and individuals mentioned in the codices are mentioned by other ancient authors as being present in this world at a much earlier period. The first such group are 5 archons, and here we go, right? We getting back into the crux of this. Archons, right? Because that's what got us on this jump in the first place. The first such group are 5 archons: Zeus, Kronos, Ares, Hermes, and Aphrodite, whose names are very similar or very familiar to the classical Greeks. In comment, the Ascul Codex states, quoting the so-called Jesus of Nazareth. All right, and this is this is where it's gonna get. We're gonna take off from here. All right, it's gonna get crazy. It says that when the archons under Adamus, right, Adamus rebelled, they attracted to themselves other archons and archangels and assistants and deacons because they continue to practice sexual intercourse. All right. Then Joe, the master of my master, came over from the place of the right, and banished them to the flashing sphere. There were 12 regions on the astral plane. So we got in the Tepi file, right? The 12 tribes. What was it? The 12 nations. The Tepi created 12 nations, right? All which came into existence at the same time, each independent of the other, all created by the Tepi, who would go by different names. So we just got right here that there are 12 regions, which is why we spent all this time breaking it down. So now we understand what we're talking about for the astral plane. All right. Now this is where it's going to get interesting. It said Sabaoth, right? Sabaoth, the Adamas, ruled as head archon over 6 of them, while his colleague Jabaroth ruled over the other 6. When Jabaroth came to believe in the initiation of the light, together with his archons, he abandoned the practice of sexual intercourse. But Sabaoth, the Adamas, continued to be involved with sexual matters. And when Joe, the master of my master, saw that Jabaroth believed, he carried him up with all the archons who had believed with him and received him in the sphere. He took him to a place of pure air where the sun shone between the places of the middle and those of the invisible God. And that sounds like the ether of the pure air. All right, the pure air. So we're going to go ahead and continue to build. We're going to pick up. Let's get some more. So it says that this invisible God, right? He took this Jabaroth into the pure air where the sun shone between the places of the middle and those of the invisible God, because he decided that he was no longer going to participate in the sexual acts as an archon. It says he established Jabaroth there with the archons who had believed in him, and he carried off Sabaoth the Adamus with his archons who did not practice the mysteries of initiation of the light, but continued to practice sexual intercourse in the mysteries. He then appointed 1,800 archons in each aeon or eon. All right, so we're going to go ahead and break all of this down in a second. It says he appointed 1,800 archons in each aeon or eon and placed 360 over them, over those. Okay, he appointed 5 other archangels to rule over the 360 and over all the archons which he appointed. In all the world of mankind, these 5 archons are known by the following names. The first is called Cronus, and then he drew a power out of whatever this name would be, right? So Cronus drew power out of this thing, whatever that would be, right? Who is one of the 3 tripled powered gods, and bound it into Aries. And he drew out a power of Bang Chuch, who is also one of the 3 triple powered gods, and bound it into Hermes. Then again he drew a power out of the Pistis Sophia, the daughter of Barbello, and bound it into Aphrodite. Furthermore, Jove saw that the 5 needed a rudder in order to guide the world as well as the regions of the sphere, lest they be destroyed by the wickedness of the negative powers. So he went into the place of the middle and drew out a power from Sabaoth, the good, and he bound it into Zeus because he was good, so that he might guide the others with his goodness, according to the Ascul Codex. Says these 5 archons have been included in a hierarchy layout under the heading of administration with the positive powers, because they appear to have been given a constructive task in the world. This will be discussed in the second section covering Greece and Crete. Under the heading of instruction are included 7 well-known archangels. These 7 have been chosen from the greater number in the material, spiritual regions, because they are discussed in the Chronicles of Enoch chapter 5 as having a major role in the creation of the Garden in Eden, or Karsag as it was known to the Sumerians. All right, and this is where I basically want to take our build, right? Because this brought me back into the reflection of the Garden of Eden and these archons. All right, so dodging all hijacks that the archons, whether good or negative, really serve any power to you outside of Hawa. That's not happening. All of these archons are hijacks because they are jealous of the way that we walk in life due to the manifestations we've been made. All right. We come from a source of power that they can't understand, nor bend, nor wield. I mean, we got this negative power, had no capability, right? Where was it? He can neither create nor destroy a soul. Okay, create nor destroy a soul. So having a soul is something that sets you apart, aside even from the angelic ones. In physical form, you are still made higher than them, that's what drives them crazy, because we are in the lowest density. We are at the lowest vibration of existing, and yet you are still made higher than them in the lowest form possible. This is why we are the marvel, my nigga. All right, and we're going to look at that through modern day terms, right? Because they refer to us as the modern humans or the Homo sapiens, right? The Homo sapiens being the most common and widespread species of primate and the last surviving species of the genus Homo. They are great apes characterized by their hairlessness and bipedalism and intelligence. So keep in mind when we were digging on melanin, right? It said reduction in body hair and melanin increase may have led to the photomelanometabolisim, which those small scale unit body area in total may have enabled a sharply increased development of the energy hungry cortex and enhanced human survival generally. Okay, so now that we're digging on human and we see that one of the distinctions is to be hairless, well, already we can see the contrast of what's going on between these different Tepis, right? Although some scientists equate the term humans with all members of the genus Homo in common usage, it generally refers to Homo sapiens, the only extant member. Extinct members of the genus Homo are known as archaic humans, and the term modern human is used to distinguish between the Homo sapiens from archaic humans. It says anatomically modern humans emerged around 300,000 years ago in Africa. Dodge all hijacks. All right. Evolving from the Homo heidelbergensis or similar species. Migrating out of Africa, they gradually replaced and interbred with local populations of archaic humans. Multiple hypotheses for the extinction of archaic human species such as Neanderthals include competition, violence, interbreeding with Homo sapiens, or inability to adapt to climate change. Okay, so as we always say, the interbreeding part never really stands because the Homo sapiens would have bred themselves out, right? They would have bred themselves out doing all this intermixing just to, evolve. You would have had more of the human genome being lost and reduced due to such interbreeding and intermixing. So we know this isn't the case because you still have people who have only Homo sapien DNA. All right. So you still got people on the earth today that only have Homo sapien DNA. And then you have those that have a mixture. All right. It says all humans are classified into the species Homo sapiens. All modern humans. Okay, all modern humans. And this is funny because the Homo sapien is the modern human. But see, this just goes to show you what I'm talking about, because there are more than just, not everybody's a Homo sapien. That's basically what I'm going to say. But they're going to say all modern humans are classified into the species Homo sapiens, coined by Carl Linnaeus. It says the generic term Homo is a learned 18th century derivation from the Latin homo, which refers to humans of either sex. The word human can refer to all members of the Homo genus, although in common usage it generally just refers to Homo sapiens. Okay, the name Homo sapiens means wise man or knowledgeable man. There is a disagreement if certain extinct members of the genus, namely Neanderthal, should be included as a separate species of humans or as a subspecies of Homo sapiens. Now, why would that be? Right? Because there are differences in that genetic makeup, and those differences distinguish between the two, which is how we know, okay, straight off the bat, this interaction between angels and man was really taking place because they wanted to go ahead and continue their genetic experiment on the earth. Here you have the humans that emerged straight out of light at one point. You know what I'm saying? That just happened. And then the next thing you know, bang, now there's different forms. Right? Now there's different forms of human. They got different beliefs, different cultures, different rules, different things that they play by because of who actually created them. All right. And they have to follow these rules and these constructs due to their DNA. All right. So we're going to continue on and see what else we got. Now, considering how they say human, right? We bring our attention to this Egyptian god that's referred to as Hu, right? Or Hu or Hu. Okay, and then they show you the Sphinx, but we already got the drop on the Sphinx that the Sphinx was what? Aker. All right, Aker was the Sphinx. Right, and he guarded the eastern and western borders of the netherworld and protected Ra, which was the sun god. All right, so it says the Egyptian god Hu or Hu was one of the minor gods in some respects, but he was one of the most important gods for those series about Egyptian deities. Hu is the power of the spoken word. All right. He personifies the authority of utterance. So we were digging earlier on part 2 about the spoken word. Where did we get it from? Let me see. All right, they're talking about the spoken word. Where was it at? Probably not here. It's crazy how this part right here though, it says souls which have vanquished the pull and power of the three reside in this region, and how we was digging on Cairo and Mars, right, in part 2. The vanquishing. I just saw that right now. Alright, but it's not in this one. We were digging on, it was something that had the creative word, and I was like, damn. And I forgot where it was, where we saw that at. I wanted to connect that point, but we already passed it in part 2, and I don't remember exactly where that was, so I don't want to spend too much time just digging through it. But Hu is the power of the spoken word. He personifies the authority of utterance. All right. One legend has it that the creator of the sun god Ra evolved from the primeval waters of Egypt. Once alive, Ra created the air and the moisture. Next, the earth god Geb and the sky goddess Nut were created. Mortal men and women were created from the tears of Ra. Ra then drew blood from his and created the gods Hu and Sia. All right. And these two gods represented their creative power of the gods. And it says that Hu and Sia were partners. Sia was the personification of divine knowledge and omniscience, the mind of the gods. Hu was the personification of divine utterance, the voice of authority. All right, so when you put everything all into perspective, Hu man basically refers to the created man, right? Or the man created from the word, or as they'll say, the breath. Right? The breath. All right, so they say Hu was this. So therefore, the human, right, was the one created directly from the gods, the source himself, or the animal man. Since Egypt is of the animals. You know, so it's about which wave you're surfing, to be honest. All right. Hiwa, right? Or also Hawa, meaning what? He. They say that it is a personal name for God in Sufism. All right. Huwa, which means there is no God but He. Hawa. All right. So that's another interesting term as we go ahead and tie in these different sounds and connect them back to the so-called human. All right. Here we have the Holocene, right? Since we're digging on the Tepi, here we have the Holocene, which they say began approximately 11,000 years ago. Right? Holocene being the new beginning, right? Or the new epoch, the new beginning. Okay? The new beginning. Because this was the way we started seeing the world in present form, right? Presently. Which was a continuation from this last ice age that we're getting over, right? From this last ice age that we're getting over. Also, keep in mind when we were digging on the Tepi, they told you that this golden age or this rebirth came around approximately 12,500 years ago. And this article right here is telling us that the Holocene began, about 1,000 years, give or take, shy of that. So it's pretty close timing. We're digging on this Holocene. All right. So continuing on to the last glacial period, all right, which goes back from 115,000 years ago to 11,700 years ago, the last glacial period. Now, I brought you here because I wanted to show you something. All right, it says, from the point of view of human archaeology, the LGP falls in the Paleolithic and early Mesolithic periods. When the glaciation event started, Homo sapiens were confined to lower latitudes and used tools comparable to those by Neanderthals in Western and Central Asia, Eurasia, and by Denisovan and Homo erectus in Asia. Homo sapiens was confined. All right. Now, keep in mind, I told you that we were going to come back to that term. Again, I don't know where it was, where we saw it. I think I've lost it again, but I told you, keep in mind, we're going to come back to that term, right? Confined. And I have no idea where it was, right? But it's in this video for sure. So when we come back to it, or when it pops back up, you'll definitely be able to kick in gear what I'm mentioning. But digging on the fact that this glaciation happened, right? This event happened that basically froze the world over. And it says that Homo sapiens was confined to the lower latitudes. And it started, a bunch of triggering, a bunch of thought processes that I had already been thinking of, and it took me somewhere, right? So let's see where it took me. All right, confined. It says to border on, have a common boundary. A sense now obsolete from French confiner, to border, to shut up or enclose. All right, to enclose. Sense of restrict within bounds, keep within limits. It says to see confines, right? So when we see confines, confines is a boundary, a border, a frontier, a limit. All right. It's funny how this word pops up. All right. We're talking about the netters. All right. Confine. Okay, so they're talking about having a border. Ultimately, we're talking about an enclosure. Now, it said due to the last glacial period, Homo sapiens were confined, right? Let's dig on it. Confined. We're talking about confining. Well, when we were digging on the shining ones, we started getting into the Garden of Eden, right? Where these archons were said to have been doing what it is that they do, right? Leaving their posts to go ahead and well, let's see what we get. It said, after I had seen all this, these men said, Enoch, we have only been told to accompany you this far. Then they left me, and I saw them no more. I was left alone outside the haven, the great house of Enlil, and I was afraid and fell on my face, saying to myself, what has happened to me? Then the Lord Enlil sent one of his great archangels, Gabriel, out to fetch me, and he said to me, Enoch, do not be afraid. Stand up and come with me, and keep standing up when you are in front of the Lord. Then Gabriel whisked me away like a leaf carried by the wind, and and he took me into the Lord. Despite what I have been told, I fell prostrate in front of the Lord, and he spoke to me, do not be afraid. Enoch, get up in future. Always stand up when you are with me. Then Mikael, who was the chief captain, raised me up. Then the Lord called one of his archangels named Uriel, and who was the most learned of them all, and said, bring out the books from my library and give Enoch a pen for speedy writing, and tell him what the books are about. Further evidence that the archangels and angels were involved in instruction in the earthly garden in Eden is shown in the following extract. After this, the men brought me to the sixth haven. Again, he referred to them as men, right? The men brought me into the sixth haven, the building of knowledge, and there I saw 7 groups of angels, very bright and wonderful, with their faces shining brighter than the sun. Now keep in mind, they said Ethiopian means burnt face or shiny face. All right. They were brilliant and all dressed alike and look alike. Now this is exactly what I said about the original people. When we're talking about the Tepi, they all looked alike all across the plane. There's no difference then to these archangels. Okay. Some of these angels studied the movement of the stars, the sun, and the moon, and record the peaceful order of the world. Other angels there undertake teaching and give instruction in clear and melodious voices. The origin of these teachings, angels, was in the hierarchy of the material spiritual regions. And this is confirmed in the account of the harassment of the Pistis Sophia by the negative forces of the Uthades related to the Askew Codex. All right. And then they get into some more Jesus hijack. It says, so once again, when the Pythis Sophia, one of the invisible ones, had made this appeal after receiving a command from my father, I sent Gabriel and Michael with a great flood of light to help her. I instructed Gabriel and Michael to take up Pythis Sophia in their hands in case her feet should touch the darkness below, and I instructed them to guide her carefully through the places of the abyss from which they had to bring her out. When these angels went down into the abyss again, they saw the flood of light. All the hunters, negative powers under the command of Hades, saw the light shining so brightly that there was no measure to it, and were afraid and released the Pythis Sophia. Okay. The only other known to us inhabitants of the material spiritual regions who are recorded as having had connections to the world at this time are the watchers / angels with craft and teaching skills who arrived in the Garden of Eden as reinforcements. Their subsequent behavior in seducing and marrying the daughters of man was to cause chaos, and their resultant punishments of incarceration in active volcanic ravines bear a close relationship to punishments described in the Askew Codex as being normal practice in the material spiritual regions. So let's stop right there and let's really digest what we just read, right? Because now we understand incarceration along with incarnation are spiritual aspects, right? Incarceration does to the soul maddening, ravenous things, right? It creates a torment of no other. To be incarcerated, this is a spiritual thing. That is a spiritual thing. It is a form of punishment. Incarceration is spiritual hierarchy. So the fact that most of us get incarcerated at some point in time just for looking how we look in a system where there is an opposed opposition with their foot on our necks constantly goes to show the spiritual hierarchy and just where we're at with this. Furthermore, we're about to really break down this whole Garden of Eden and the cause of chaos. Because basically these archons jumped off the porch, man, to create havoc. And if you're thinking this is about a bloodline of one particular man or woman, you're not seeing the picture clearly, because our sister, our Aqua Shamar, Aha to Aqua Shamar, she brought to my attention a while ago, and we still got some build to do on that. But where in the Bible, where in the Torah and the text does it say that Eve died? It tells you the days and the years that Adam lived and all the other men right there forth, but it says nothing about the time Eve died. I mean, there is no recollection or, any written form of her death, which was amazing when she revealed this, because she also was saying how the Y chromosome is getting weaker every generation, almost to the point where it seems like the gender for men, or the gender of men is slowly going extinct. And they even had a series on this, right? The Last Man on Earth. That was an amazing point that she brought out, right? Because what if a man, or to be a man, is directly one of these watchers, right? To be a watcher, to be a man is to directly be a watcher. Because when you're looking at the whole purpose of a man, it was to be in service to these angels, right? These angels came down to put man into servitude. So man was an intermediary between the woman and these angels. If the woman was already the human species, well, then the man, being a mutated version of that chromosome, would link back to what? Watchers, Anunnaki, shining ones, angels, ethereal beings. If you're surfing a wave. Tawada to Aqua Shamar. Alright. But let's get into it, man, because we're talking about confined, right? To be confined, enclosed. When we're dealing with a garden, right? A garden means what? Kitchen. Garden means a kitchen. A kitchen is a place where you store your food, where you go to prepare your food, where you go to prep your food, where you go to eat your food. Garden. Right? So if man was placed in the Garden of Eden, and these angels are being seen behaving by seducing and marrying the daughters of man to cause chaos, well, what's really being said if garden means kitchen, or if kitchen means garden? What about an orchard? An orchid, right? A palace grounds. All right. It means an enclosed garden. Confined means enclosed. Garden means enclosed. So during the last glacial period, Homo sapiens were confined. Here you have them telling you the story of the Garden of Eden right here. They're telling you the story right here. Okay? Peep it. Peep it. Homo sapiens were confined to the lower latitudes, right? Garden means enclosed. Confined means enclosed. Enclosed. Garden is also a place where food grows. You know, I remember the young Nat was trying to, pop off with this. right? The young Nat was trying to talk to the tribe 5 years ago, sparking the thought, sparking the interest. Let's see what we can do. Let's tap back in with the young Nat, man, and see what's going on. Shalom to the tribe. Let's pop off. All right, here. So we have about 4 years ago, right? Kitchen of Eden, Garden of the Light, Orientation Pies, Part 1. Which, to me, I think is dope because we actually got a lot of drop in the Orientation Pies, Part 2. The True Earth Plane Talks. Instead of TED Talks, I put TEP Talks, right? TEP, True Earth Plane Talks. We skipped the TED and just put the TEP, but we was talking Orientation Pies. That one's a great drop. Part 2 is a great drop. But this is a combination between this and Part 1. All right. Part 1, we got the whole language of light of the Hibiru, right? And we're connecting on the Hibiru. And we talk about the Tepi, but we also make mention to, Yaldabaoth and the Demiurge. Well, this right here, Part 1 and this, drop, we go ahead and kind of question just what's going on. So let's see what, the young Nat was kicking. Let's see how it's parallel to what we're going through today. All right.
Or normally, which helps shakes off this paradigm of so-called future, right? Because you believe you're in the future right now. So, getting back to this garden, getting back to Eden, the etymology of Eden is delight, pleasure, extreme pleasure, pleasure that is not quickly dissolved. This type of pleasure is long lasting. Low-key can be forever. This kind of delight can be forever. Strong pleasure and satisfaction. That's what delight is. When we're digging on.
So that's delight. Let's see about garden though, right? I mean, let's see what happens with garden. Belly flop.
I'm warming up. Sun is magnificent. But when we're talking about gardens, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Right, when you break down the etymology of garden, what's the first thing you get? What's the one word that stands out in garden? Don't worry, while you think about that, I'm gonna hit you with another one. So go ahead and take your time. At the same time, when we think about Eden, what definitions, what meanings come to mind? It's pretty interesting how many different names are inspired or said to come from Eden. So many different names. And it just made me trip out because, I'm related to a few of those names. And it's just amazing, you know what I'm saying? But when you think about Eden, and you think about garden, first of all, what grows in the garden? Okay? What grows in the garden? And where are gardens normally at? Where are they normally located? What is...
See, we was asking high vibrational questions, man. 4 years ago, we was in some deep thought, and just then I kind of realized like, wow, this is a certain wave to surf, right? I had a couple of people who was actually putting me on as I was bringing it up. That was like, yeah, man, you ever seen this video? You ever seen this such and such? You ever heard of this? And I love it when people do that because then I'm sitting back and I'm like, damn, this shit really, it really is a thing outside of what I'm thinking or how I got here, right? It just lets me know that I'm on the right way. I'm on the right path. So yeah, man, reeling up, asking these questions, we was spiraling out of control right then and there, right?
The function or purpose of a garden. You know, because it's about critical thinking. See, I'm realizing that critical thought is a gift. Critical thinking is something that, one has to be born with this. All right, one has to be born with this critical thought. You can't. It's not something you develop. You can learn to key in on certain things. Yes, you can learn to pick up on certain things as well. But to have critical thought is to have it. It has to be, within you. It has to be you. And when you're critically thinking, it's hard to push rubbish past you. It's hard to bullshit somebody that is always critically thinking. What about sensitive people? Those who are sensitive. And I'm not talking about trying or, you know what I'm saying? What we would assume as being soft. I'm talking about someone that's really in touch with what they feel, with what they know, with what they think. Sensitive people have high so-called psychic abilities.
Sensitive people and psychic abilities, all right? We're going to go ahead and jump back to where we were at originally with the question, as far as this garden, right? And then the delight.
Which helps shape off this paradigm of the so-called future, right? Because you believe you're in the future right now. So, getting back to this garden, getting back to Eden, the etymology of Eden is delight, pleasure, extreme pleasure, pleasure that is not quickly dissolved. This type of pleasure is long lasting. Low-key can be forever. This kind of delight can be forever. Strong pleasure and satisfaction. That's what delight is. When we're digging on the etymology of Eden, delight pops up with strong vibrations. When we dig on the term garden, right? Garden has strong vibrations. In the etymology, what's the first thing that pops up? When I was digging on it, I came across a kitchen. Kitchen. What else is delightful? What causes delight? Delight. Like I said, what grows in the garden? So, if Eden is a garden and Eden is said to be a delightful place, a place of delight, extreme pleasure, great satisfaction, and a garden is said to be a kitchen. What? A kitchen. You see what I'm saying? See, it's to my knowledge, right? My understanding that you grow food in a garden. Food. Is it not so? Wouldn't you have a garden to grow your food? instead of going to the store to be self-sufficient? I would. Wouldn't you take delight in eating your food, knowing that it came from the garden straight to your kitchen? You didn't have to go through a middleman to get it. You just plucked it.
And these are just critical thinking patterns that, one develops when thinking about it. You don't want to necessarily always have to be going to the store for your food, right? To be the source of your own food comes with a satisfaction of none other. All right. So, we was digging on this years ago, right? And just to show you that we've been asking the right questions. So let's continue on with this drop. Peace. So here we have garden being an enclosure, right? And we saw how Homo sapiens were confined meaning to be enclosed, to be bordered up. Garden being an enclosed garden, right? An enclosed kitchen. They also told us to, I decided to check out Eden, right? On top of that. So when checking out Eden, we get a delightful place. Figurative use of the place described in Genesis usually refer to the Hebrew Eden, pleasure, delight. But perhaps from the Ugaritic base, din, in meaning a place that is well watered throughout. So the next thing I do is look up delight. A high degree of pleasure, satisfaction, right? That's what we got from the video. That which gives great pleasure. Great pleasure. All right? That which gives great pleasure. Pleasure, delight, but also sexual desire. To please greatly, to charm. Sexual desire, right? And we got here that these archons were coming down to seduce and marry the daughters of men. All right, so delight is telling us sexual desire, along with allure. Allure, to charm, to please. Now this is taking a certain turn, right? This is taking a certain turn because now we're starting to get very detailed. It says to have or to take great pleasure, to affect with great pleasure, to please greatly, charm, to allure, again, delight, charm, please, delicious. A garden of deliciousness? What are we talking about? What are we talking about, right? Delight, allure. So when we dig onto allure, it says to tempt by offering something desired, right? To tempt by offering something desired. Allure. Let's get it. Let's get it like it's the first time. We're going to get it right now. Let's get the script. Peace. All right, so here we start to build. And immediately, right? Man and woman in temptation. All right. It says, human love is God's best gift to man. Without it, even Eden would not be paradise. That Adam was able to name the animals, affixing a title suggested by some peculiarity or characteristic indicated by his royal supremacy. And in so far as we live in God, that supremacy is restored. But what is power without love, or a throne without a consort? Eve was therefore given to crown his bliss, taken from his side, as afterward the church from the open side of Christ. Hijack, all right? It says, still God brings Eve to Adam, and such a marriage is truly blessed. The order of temptation is always the same. The tempter without and within, the strong desire for sensual gratification, with the secret hope that somehow the consequences may be avoided. The eye inflames passion. Passion masters the resistance of the will. The body obeys its impulse. The act of gratification is followed immediately by remorse and guilt. All right. So, reading this, okay, we start to see, well, hey, something has definitely happened. Right? An enchantment, an enchanter. All right, learned by experience. So this was a magic spell being done, what they were saying the Watchers would have done, okay? To allure, right? To tempt by offering of something desired. To attempt by offering of something desired. Let's take it further. All right. Entice. Right. It said, where did we get this from? Entice, right? It said to allure and entice. So entice is to incite or instigate to sin or violence, to stir up fire, to excite, incite, which is of uncertain origin, to set on fire. Firebrand, meaning to allure, to attract. So when you're incited, you're set on fire, we're talking about hormones, right? We're talking about your feelings. We're talking about intrusive thoughts. Okay, so you're being lit passionately, allured, tempted. Enticed, right? So something was going on that we now know as genetic experimentation and the sorts, and this happened as soon as it popped off. But furthermore, you were enclosed, right? You were enclosed. It says the Homo sapiens were confined, being enclosed, a garden being enclosed. You see what's going on? So here we have the Homo erectus, right? Because they said Homo erectus led the way to basically being the ancestor of the modern human. And while Homo sapien was confined during the last glacial period, this Homo erectus was roaming around. All right. And what they're really saying is that basically these different homos or these different archaic humans are really the ones before the flood, right? The type of humans that existed with the tampering of these said watchers, these shiny ones, these Gregorians, these angels, this Anunnaki, whatever we want to refer to them as, right? This is one of the experiments that supposedly went extinct. It says Homo erectus had a more modern gait and body proportions and was the first human species to have exhibited a flat face, prominent nose, and possibly sparse body hair coverage. Though the species' brain size certainly exceeds that of ancestor species, capacity varied widely depending on population. In earlier populations, brain development seemed to cease early in childhood, suggesting that the offspring were largely self-sufficient at birth, thus limiting cognitive development through life. It says Homo erectus was an apex predator. Sites generally show consumption of medium to large animals such as bovines or elephant, and suggesting development of predatory behavior and coordinated hunting. Homo erectus is associated with the Acheulean tool industry and is postulated to have been the earliest human ancestor capable of using fire, hunting, and gathering in coordinated groups, caring for injured or sick group members, and possibly seafaring and art, though examples of art are controversial and otherwise rudimentary and a few and far in between. All right, so I wanted to bring you down Alright, we want to dig on the anatomy. Alright. Keep in mind, they'll tell you that, he looked like this. Alright, this is how Buddy looked. Looked like a couple of people still to this day, right? This is what they say Buddy looked like. No doubt. Now, let's see, where is it that we're looking for? All right. So here, right, and again, they'll say this is what they think Homo erectus look like. Crazy, right? Okay, but nonetheless, it says it is largely unclear when human ancestors lost most of their body hair. Alright, it says genetic analysis suggests that high activity in the melanocortin 1 receptor which would produce dark skin, dates back to 1.2 million years ago. This could indicate the evolution of hairlessness around this time, as a lack of body hair would have left the skin exposed to harmful UV radiation. It is possible that the exposed skin only became maladaptive in the Pleistocene because the increasing tilt of the Earth, which also caused the ice ages, would have increased solar radiation bombardment, which would suggest that the hairlessness first emerged in the Astropleistocene. All right, so oh man, yo, now this is intense because this is where they start fucking up, right? This is really where they start fucking up. They tell you that the production of melanin is the result of hairlessness. So what they're trying to say is that before he became melanated, he was hairy. Right? But when we were digging on melanin, right, we saw that the reduction in body hair and melanin increases. Right? So this is the way melanin is working based off the luminous energy that it is. So with them saying this, they're saying, damn, well, this is how it happened. Right? This is the way we can explain. But then to be hairy in the way that they're depicting would make you more relatable to an ape, which is what they're trying to say humans are, right? The ape. Well, when we're digging on human or the Homo sapien, they'll tell you that the Homo sapiens emerged, right? Emerged in Africa, dodged the hijack, right? But emerged. I want you to stick with that term, okay? Now, they said that the Homo erectus was an archaic human because it's extinct. Archaic being old-fashioned, ancient, old-fashioned, antiquated, primitive, right? From the beginning or the origin, to be the first, hence to begin, to rule. See Archon. So we go right back to Archon. Not merely crude, the archaic has a rudeness and imperfection, implying the promise of future advance. So they say that advancement was the Homo sapien who emerged, right? The Homo sapien that emerged to replace this archaic human that was the Homo erectus. All right, so right here, they're telling you they don't know when humans begin to become hairless or develop melanin. So here is the difference maker so far that I'm seeing that goes ahead and gives a human its human trait, the melanin. And they're telling you right out of their mouth, right? It says, however, Australopithecines seem to have lived at much higher, much colder elevations, all right, where the nighttime temperature can drop to about 10 or 5 degrees Celsius or 50 or 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So they may have required hair to stay warm. unlike early Homo, which inhabited lower, hotter elevations. All right. So here we have that confinement all over again. Okay, but we're seeing how they don't know. It's unclear when this melanation and hairlessness began in humans, indicating they have no idea why or when you became melanated. When we research melanin in apes, it says humans have different skin colors because we have different amounts and different kinds of the pigment of melanin in our skin. Our closest living relatives, the chimpanzees, have pale skin without melanin underneath their dark fur. And almost certainly the ancestors that we share with chimps did too. So they're telling you, hey, even the monkeys that they refer, or the archaic humans that they're talking about outside of this Homo erectus, didn't have any melanin. Right? These apes didn't have any melanin. Apes today don't have melanin underneath the dark fur. You shave the fur off. They're calling it hair here. It's fur. You take this fur off and they're pale skin. Pale skin, alright? So that can't be the case. Because these apes don't have the melanin that they're talking about. Furthermore, they said that this goes back to 1.2 million years ago. But back in the day, I brought you some drop that indicated man was walking side by side with dinosaurs, man. The dragons, the Dracons. And we know that man had access to Dracons, that these shiny ones, these Anunnaki had access to Dracons. All right. And they used them as weapons to keep time travelers in check, to keep those in the caves in check. We kept them in their caves with these dinosaurs, man, with these dragons. Let's get it. All right. Let's get that drop. Peace. All right, so here we got this drop from 6 years ago, man. 6 years ago. The land of Adama. And we can see, just by the looks of it, not everybody's feeling it. All right, but I mean, hey, I pose a strong argument in the details that I pitch in my drops. They be lengthy. We go into deep detail because, I'm always wondering about the things that I discuss. It's a natural, wondering for me. So this is just what I do. All right. But seeing how we're putting everything together right about now, it was always linked up. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have tons and tons of videos because the videos that I do drop got tons and tons of hours put into them that, can be underrated, under appreciated at times, because depending on what you're coming from and what wave you're surfing, some of these things just might not be of importance, but nonetheless they connect so many different dots. So we're gonna go ahead and surf this wave and let's see what we got. All right, peace.
I'm gonna hit y'all over the head with this fair use one time as I register for this. If y'all haven't done that, I suggest y'all get to it, and let's go ahead and stay pure water in this platform and this foundation that we got. All right. Be back at y'all soon.
According to conventional scientific theory, no human beings were alive then to witness these events. Or were they? Over 100 million years ago, the limestone bedrock of the Biloxi River in Texas was a muddy clay. It was here that countless dinosaurs left their footprints to be fossilized and preserved forever. But the tracks of another creature have also been preserved in these banks, possibly the tracks of man. Archaeologist Carl Bau has led the investigation of these controversial prints for over 12 years.
My reaction was one of shock. I had heard of human footprints being found in this locale on the Biloxi near Glen Rose, Texas, but I was rather skeptical. And here, after removing actual rock layers, the team and I excavated a series of dinosaur footprints. At 18.5 inches from one of those dinosaur footprints, we excavated a 16-inch human footprint.
16-inch. Alright. 16-inch. There's some niggas walking around with 15 of the sort. I mean, we talking shacking them. Alright. Come on, man. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? We about to get to it. Alright. 50 million years. There's all hijacks at all costs. But 50 million years ago, we putting up on a, alright, 50 million years ago, walking around with so-called dinosaurs, man. Dracons, man. Footprints in the American soil. He said, "Toe Texas. Toe Texas, stand up."
We excavated 12 footprints in a series. And when you find a trail with left, right pace and stride, the right distance apart, then you have to interpret this as belonging to humankind.
It's been claimed that the Biloxi River footprint.
You have to interpret it left, right pace and stride, the right distance apart, then you have to interpret this as belonging to humankind.
It's been claimed that the Biloxi River footprints are a hoax carved into the limestone bedrock as a tourist attraction.
Well, we found trails leading under limestone ledges. And we found that both the dinosaur footprints and the trail of human footprints continued under the rock ledges. And we found that both the dinosaur footprints and the trail of human footprints continued under the rock ledges. This evidence is real. Prints continued under the rock ledges. This evidence is real. Slab of rock at a time. And we found that both the dinosaur footprints and the trail of human footprints continued under the rock ledges. This evidence is real.
I first saw the verdict print on my initial visit to Glen Rose in 1984. My impression at that time was that it was too perfect, but it's clearly a human footprint. Impression at that time was that it was too perfect, but it's clearly a human footprint demonstrating the heel section, the arch, the base of the metatarsals, the first or great toe, second, third, fourth, and fifth toe.
After our examination of this print, we find that it definitely is in the Cretaceous limestone, in the same formation with the dinosaur footprints. Here we look at the print, we find that it definitely is in the Cretaceous limestone, in the same formation with the dinosaur footprints. After our examination of this print, we find that it definitely is in the Cretaceous limestone, in the same formation with the dinosaur footprints. Here we're looking at a cross-section, and we can see very obvious following contours under the great toe, and actually structures under each one. Where we see the calcite inclusion, the force was concentrated and produced these load-bearing structures, which are exactly what geologists look for. We have eliminated the idea that it's carved. It definitely is original impression in the sediment.
All right. We've been on their head with this, man, because there was never a time that this earth was and man wasn't. And that's just something that the ancients always spoke about. We're going to carry on. Peace to the real ones. The melanocortin 1 receptor. The MC1R is one of the key proteins involved in regulating mammalian skin color and hair color. It is located on the plasma membrane specialized cells known as melanocytes, which produce pigment melanin through the process of melanogenesis. It controls the type of melanin being produced, and its activation causes the melanocyte to switch from generating the yellow-red pheomelanin by default to the brown-black eumelanin in replacement. Alright, in humans, a number of loss of function mutations of MC1R have been described, with redheads often having multiple individual loss of function mutations, but as of 2001, activating mutations that increase eumelanin synthesis have not been described. Alright, so this is the function they said that Homo erectus was able to pick up. And somehow they didn't understand. Well, I don't even know if Homo erectus picked it up, to be real, because they just kind of left it in general, right? They didn't necessarily specify if it was Homo erectus or not, but it was under the Homo erectus tab. But they said due to the loss of hair, so we're assuming that maybe Homo erectus wasn't so hairy. And if he was full of, this rich pigment, then it goes to explain why they don't necessarily know what happened. They can't account for that. Or maybe they can, but they choose not to display that, right? Obviously, that's what we're here for. So, let me see. How did we get here? Shit, racist, right? It's crazy. It get crazy. It really do get crazy. Yeah, man. I don't know where. We'll deal with that later. But I was somehow led to the tab. Let me see. Nope, because this ain't in here. So, I was basically led to this tab, right? Sentience, which is the simplest or most primitive form of cognition, consisting of the consciousness awareness of stimuli without association or interpretation. Right? The word was first coined by philosophers in the 1630s for the concept of an ability to feel, derived from Latin sentience or feelings, to distinguish it from the ability to think, which is reason. Alright, it says in Western philosophy, sentience is the ability to experience sensations in different Asian religions. The word sentience has been used to translate a variety of concepts. In science fiction, the word sentience is sometimes derived or sometimes used interchangeably with sapiens, self-awareness, or consciousness. All right. When we dig on Sapiens. Right? We're talking about wisdom. But furthermore, when we're digging on Sapiens, we're talking about Sophia, right? In Greek. The transcendent wisdom, ultimate reality, or the ultimate truth of things. The more cosmic big picture is often how wisdom, or true wisdom with a capital W, is considered with a religious context. So the fact that we are the Homo sapiens, right, that would make us the humans of Sophia, right? And why is that something of importance? Well, because according to the Coptic text, the mother of Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, is Sophia. So if the Yaldabaoth's creation was in error, right, since he has not the power to create the soul, it is said that Sophia reached down and put the soul into the creation of Yaldabaoth so that they had a chance. This is the same thing they say as far as the Prometheus fire. Right? The wisdom. They said they had no idea where the melanin came from. They have no idea where the melanin came from. Yet, it is the Homo sapien that has the true wisdom, or the wisdom that makes the modern human the human that it is. So according to the tale of Yaldabaoth, this lets us know that they're really telling us the truth in this type of version, right? Because the Homo sapien is the Sophia human, or the human of Sophia. To perceive, to discern, to know. Keep in mind, the Homo sapiens didn't have any archaic human in their DNA. And as we read, they emerged. Right? Emerged. Well, let's get that breakdown. Emerge. Right? As in surfaced. To come to one's attention, especially gradually or unexpectedly. Surfaced, happened, materialized, sprang up, arose, occurred, sprung up, cropped up, appeared, came up, came about, happened. They sprung up, occurred, rose. That reminds me of this word. Autochton, one sprung from the soil he inhabits. Literally sprung from the land itself. Aborigines, natives, primitive inhabitants. To self spring from the land. It said that humans emerged. Sprung up. Autochtons. One sprung from the soil he inhabits. Your design is the mystery. And you were given that shot, that chance. And this is why the archons are jealous, right? we came across this Sabaoth, right? Sabaoth. Sabaoth was the one that they said was the Lord host of these archons, the negative ones, right? And I told you this is where things are going to get interesting. Sabaoth. The Adamus. So here they said this is the host of heaven, right? Sabaoth. Yaldabaoth's son. All right, so let's continue to dig. We're talking archons. All right. It says the old man in the sky, Lord Sabaoth, or Sabaoth, right? Today we look at a pleasantly painted image of the gospel of Lord Sabaoth as God the Father is generally titled in Russian Orthodoxy. If you have been reading here for any length of time, you will know that contrary to what is sometimes stated by conservative religious sites, the image of God the Father has been common and very widespread in Eastern Orthodoxy for many centuries. He is shown as an old man with a long white beard, as in the example below. He has the 8-pointed slava, which means glory, here behind his head, which symbolizes his internal nature. The 8 points traditionally signifies the days of creation, with the 8th day, with the 8th being the day of eternity. In this example, he holds a globe surmounted by a cross symbolizing universal rule. Now peep it, right? Peep it how they say this boy look. Alright, get a good look at that, man, because they said this is Sabaoth. This is an archon. And like I told you, we go to war with the archons. So get a good look at that. Alright. And peep how interesting this gets. He blesses with his right hand, and if we look at the position of the fingers, we can see this is not an old believer icon, because the fingers beginning with the second finger, the one next to the thumb, form the letters ICXC, abbreviating Jesus Christ. The finger and thumb touching are loosely interpreted as the X. So this is an archon throwing up hidden hand signs of Jesus, man. And this is what we talk about, these archons and us slaying the hijack and being in a frequency war with such. We're gonna continue on. Peace, peace. Says the old believers, however, as you know, use the 2-fingered blessing as in this illustration. This is characteristic of old believer icons. Yeah, we sifting out all the hijack. Alright. Though at first this icon of Lord Sabaoth looks to be painted in the old manner, nonetheless we can see signs of influence of Western European art in it. Let's look more closely at the face. No doubt. Don't take rocket science to figure this out. Not even in the slightest. You know? This is a strong attempt to make the flesh and its wrinkles look more realistic and subtle shading, though there's still stylization, or supposed to be stylization, I think. Look particularly at the inner corner of the eyes. There we see that little dot of flesh, technically a lacrimal caruncle that eyes really have. It is a significant, realistic, naturalistic touch, and as I have said before, that little detail is not found in Russian icons before the latter part of the 1600s. See, and he's basically pointing out the switcheroo, man. Alright? And just to show you that I'm not always on the pale skin's head bone, we gonna definitely expose who these archons should truly be. Right? Because you have agreeables and you have disagreeables. And I agree with keeping the code to the most pivotal point, right? To the max. Max Ahab to the MHOEs. Max Ahab to the MHOEs, right? I can agree with that, but I disagree with hijack. So I can be both, an agreeable and a disagreeable. It depends on what the frequency is. Also, you probably noticed that the folds of the garments are more flowing and somewhat less rigid than they would be in the strict old manner. So this is a kind of transitional icon standing between the old highly stylized manner of painting and the more realistic Western style, while incorporating elements of both. The Western style, sometimes called Italianates, gradually came to predominate in the Russian Orthodox State Church, while the very conservative Old Believers kept the earlier and more stylized tradition alive into modern times. Alright, so they tell you, oh man, this is the Sabaoth, right? And this is him. But nonetheless, he's repping, so-called Jesus. And we're talking about archons. Mind you, when we look at the term, they're telling you, hey, he's the host of heaven. Let's surf the wave, Shabbatai, with the naturalists as we jump to the supernatural with Quartz Vision for part 3. And let's see what Sabaoth really looks like. Sabaoth is one of the sons of Yaldabaoth. In some Gnostic writings, Sabaoth is one of the sons of Yaldabaoth, according to the hypostasis or the hypostasis or whatever of the archons and on the origin of the world. Sabaoth dethrones his father Yaldabaoth. In both accounts, Sabaoth repents when he hears the voice of Sophia, condemns his father and his mother, and after that is enthroned by Sophia in the 7th heaven. Some church fathers report, on the other hand, that Gnostics identify Sabaoth with Yaldabaoth himself. Alright. Okay, so we're digging on Sabaoth. Alright. Now, who is this melanated man right here? And who does he look like? Alright. And we're talking son of Yaldabaoth, right? Here we can see it. Sabaoth, Russian icon. Now these are archons, man. He gangbanging on you. You know, he's letting you know spiritually. He's throwing the Jesus upon you. The Jesus. Alright, we got plenty of them. Alright, who is these niggas right here, man? Who is these hijacks right here? One of the archons going at your neck, right? They said crept up in the Garden of Eden. Now this one's wild. Alright, but check it out. Like, yo. Alright. Like, who is these niggas right here, man? Who is these melanated? Who are these people, man? Who's this? Who is these niggas, man? What's going on, man? What's really happening? Who's this nigga right here, man? Archons, you know, this is what they telling you. This is what they giving you. This is what they hiding from you. This is what they changing on you. Right? Because they told us what? We'll get that back. Look, they told us this is who he was, right? They said this is who he is. Right, but the whole time it's him. Who's these niggas, man? Who's these niggas, man? This one right here look a little Inca-ish. He looks a little Inca-ish, man. Who's these niggas right here, man? What's going on? Sabo off, huh? That's the same dude. You can't make this up. You can't make this up, boss. Right? I mean, look. Who are these niggas, man? These are the archons. Get a real good look at them. Get a real good look at them, my niggas, cause we here. Maximum pop off. Can't make this up. Sabo off, man. See, the truth is stranger than fiction. And these Archons jumped off the porch. These Archons have done a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And now we're in the belly of the beast because of it. I hope you really know what time it is, Shabbatai, because Quartz vision is just turning up from this point on. You know what I'm saying? This fifth wave is coming to shake it up. No hijacks allowed. MHOE. And this is not it. They told you this was him. Alright. Human evolution was not a simple linear branch progression, but involved interbreeding between related species. Genomic research has shown that the hybridization between substantially diverged lineages was common in human evolution. DNA evidence suggests that several genes of Neanderthal origin are present among all non-sub-Saharan African populations. And Neanderthals and other hominins such as Denisovans may have contributed up to 6% of their genome to present-day non-Saharan African humans. And this goes back into that monkey talk. And you see it. They're trying to tell you come from the troglodytes, man. Alright. They're trying to tell you that's where you come from. As a so-called Homo sapien. But we really just showed you where you come from. Right? According to their own saying. Right? They said what was it? Was it even in here? I don't even know if it was in here. I was looking for something specific where they was mentioning, maybe it was over here in this joint. Where they said that he ran to Sophia. Well, this is the drawing the power out of her to create. So they said that, she was released. Alright, that this Sophia was released when they saw that light and they got scared. So when we're talking about the Sapiens, let's see what's going on. This is what makes us who we are, right? And this is why they said they had no idea where it was that the melanin came from. All right, highlight that. We go back here. It is unclear. So they don't know what makes you the Homo sapien, and they don't know why. But we just surfed the wave, and hopefully now you do. Shalom to the real ones, Ahau to the tribe. All praises to the Creator for allowing us to wrap up part 3. And you definitely know we got more on the way, Shabbat. It's always a love thing when we come and do these builds. So I hope the vibe has been magnetic and peaceful. And I hope that we inspired everyone that was meant to be inspired. Until next time, peace, peace.